So are you ready to go out and buy your very first IKEA cabinet and make it into a beautiful plant greenhouse? Or don't. Well, don't just yet anyway. Let me take you through a couple of things. I've had this IKEA greenhouse for about 1.5 years and I've had some troubles, especially at the beginning. So let me share those with you so you can just pre-plan as much as possible and not kill any plants along the way, because I can tell you right now, there are a few things to watch out for when you are setting up your very first IKEA cabinet. I know you're itching to press that buy now button on the Amazon page, so let's get straight into it. But first I need a chair because my butt's sore. I'm too tall for this. Okay, so the first thing you just want to think about is you will actually have a time of trial and error. So don't put all your plants in straight away. Put some plants in that you think are going to be easy going enough for the environment that you're going to create, because it's going to take time to figure out the right humidity levels versus the right fan up and down, how many times you want the fan on and off. And it took me a good 2 to 3 months to really get the environment that I wanted within the cabinet. And I didn't realize that. And I put all of my really nice expensive plants in there. For example, my Monstera albo. And it didn't do very well right at the beginning. It was actually okay in the spot that I had it originally. So when I moved it into the IKEA cabinet, the white parts stressed out and all the white came off the leaf. So it was just not best for one of my expensive plants, but that's okay. We all learn, that's okay. So just have a think about how you want your IKEA cabinet laid out and set up. How many shelves do you want? Where do you want the humidifier? Where perhaps do you want the lights? We'll talk about lights more in a second. And then start testing and trialing and just put a couple of plants in, get used to the amount of humidity and the lighting and how much you want it on and off. My advice perhaps is just try and emulate the day, so a 9 to 5 kind of day, or maybe 8 to 6, 7 to 8. Don't go any higher than perhaps 10 to 12 hours maximum. You still want to turn the lights off at night, like for example, plants need to rest too. But it does take time to get the humidity levels right. You may even find that when you're setting out your IKEA cabinet, it takes a bit of time for the sealing around the edges to get right. Maybe you've missed a spot, who knows? So just be aware that it takes a good 2 to 3 months. Don't put all your expensive plants in, and then try turning your humidifier and your lights on and off and see how you go. And get your temperature and your environment right, and then put your plants in, trust me, put your plants in up. Okay, now another thing you might want to consider is, again, going back to the lights, the grow lights. Now I have a couple of different grow lights in here. I have 2 at the top, I don't just have one. And I did try putting a cordless one down the bottom, but I found just going in and out of the cabinet all the time to put the energy back in and the battery back in by USB, oh my God, it was a nightmare, so that was wrong. So next time what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some lights not only at the top of the cabinet, but also at the front here, so it faces into the cabinet, so it shines into the plant. So I've got some at the top and some at the front. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I found that a lot of the leaves are just striving to get up to the top where the light is, but if I can create more light around the cabinet, then perhaps the plants won't just face upwards and the leaves won't just face upwards, and the leaves will actually face forward for me. And of course, it's a cabinet, you want to look in it and you want to see the plants facing you front and center. Just have a think about lighting. Perhaps you want a couple of different lights in there, and just consider again how many lights you want, how much is too much, how much is too little. Do you want bright 5000K light? Do you want LED lights? I do suggest LED lights because they're a lot cheaper and they run on lower wattage. Have a bit of a plan about your lights. So another reason why I say this is because once you get your cabinet up and running, your plants are going to absolutely love it. It's going to almost be perfect conditions for the plants that you have in there. They're going to start growing and growing, and sooner or later, they're going to reach the top of your cabinet. And that's what's happened to a couple of mine. Again, my Monstera albo has reached the top of the cabinet, got very, very happy after a couple of months of up and down, and then it went all the way to the top where the lights were, and it started to hit the lights, and my leaves have started to burn from the lights. I totally regret it. So again, have a bit of a plan about where the lights sit, how far up the plants will grow. What happens when the plants go out? Do you have another place to go to? If you do, let me know. If you have a plan for that already, let me know. But because my albo is now burnt on some of the top leaves, I'm actually going to cut her up, and just a little bit of trial and error on where the albo will sit best to help keep the white parts white. And that's going to be another video. But back to the point, the grow lights always have a recommended distance from where the grow lights should sit above the plant. The grow lights will be beautiful, the conditions will be beautiful, and your plants will grow fast, which happened to mine, once you get it all set up and rearing and ready to go. It's excellent, but it's also pros and cons, right? So the next part we're going to talk about is probably the most boring part of the IKEA cabinet setup, and that is 2 words: cord management. The thing is, the cords aren't the most sexiest part, and you can just think you can hide them underneath or behind. That's very much what I did when I started. But I think you're probably gonna have more cords than you think. So for example, I have 2 grow lights with 2 cords. I have a heat mat down the bottom, which is also another piece that needs energy. I also have a fan, or I have 2 fans actually, that helps with the humidity. And I also at one stage had a humidifier, a little one, which I am planning on putting back in. So that's what, 5 already. So you just need to think about how many cords and where those cords are going to go. Most IKEA cabinets, if you're gonna set them up as a greenhouse, you will need to cut a hole in the base that's big enough to fit all the cords and all the plugs through. If I could do it again, I wouldn't put the hole at the base, because when you water things and accidentally get water down in the base, the water would drip through that little grommet section and can drip onto the floor, onto the carpet for me. Oh, not good. If I was to start again, I would put the hole at the bottom, at the base of the panel. Bottom at the back, not at the bottom. Does that make sense? Yes, okay. Just have a think about cords and cord management, and you may also want to think about getting yourself a setup of a smart system. So one that you can control by your phone, or one that is automatically turns on and off day and night. So that's what I have with the lighting, and the humidifier goes on and off every now and again. Cord management may seem like a silly thing, but you'll have long cords, you'll have short cords. If you cut a hole at the back panel, you can put all your cords through, and you can maybe hook them up with command hooks. And the back of the IKEA cabinet, you can get ones that hold the long cords as well if you've got really long cords. Honestly, just have a think about it, of where you want to go, where the layout is, because honestly, it will look so much better and you'll be so much more thankful for it if you just think a little bit about the messy part that you sometimes see and you sometimes don't. So I just want to take a quick pause and let you know that everything that you see in the IKEA cabinet that I have purchased, I'll try and leave a link below. I'll make sure that there's a specific link for those Australians out there, because I know it can be hard to find them here in Australia. I know I found them hard because a lot of the setups I see are from the US or UK or Europe. So I will have a Aussie link as well as a global link for anyone who's watching. And if there's anything that you'd like me to talk about, no question is too silly. My channel's still small, so you can ask all the weird stuff that you're not quite sure of, because honestly, I had so many questions when I started. And let me know what videos you'd like to see next. Something else to also consider is, I've talked about humidity, but what happens if the humidity gets too high? If you put all of the paneling and you seal it up all properly, the humidity doesn't have anywhere to go, and it can actually ruin your plants. So if you have all your plants in trays or in pots, you don't want the water sitting there, because you've got water plus the humidity, which is very high water, and it could easily get root rot, or even worse, mold or black spot, or whatever it's called, white powdery mildew, whatever it is. It's quite easy to get fungus and mold in a closed environment like this. Don't buy any kind of humidifier that's too big. Just buy something nice and small, or maybe there's another way you can go about it. You could put the fountain in, you don't necessarily need a humidifier, and the water that comes off the fountain can be part of it, and it just looks beautiful inside the cabinet. You could have the top plants, when the water trickle down to the middle plants and trickle down to the bottom plants, but then just make sure you have like a pebble tray or something that covers the very base. I didn't do that to start with, and it ruined my heat mat and almost everything down there. There's still a little bit of copper and rust at the base there, so I have to fix that as well. All of these things you'll learn as you go, but humidity is a killer of plants. If it's too high, you can get root rot, and especially if you have variegated plants in there, you can get water that remains on the leaves, and then that white part particularly, and the leaves will rot and go yellow and get fungus and all sorts. So just think about the layout, how long you want the humidity, test it out beforehand, and really get used to the environment and really get used to the type of plants that love it in your cabinet. And then once it's all set up and ready to go and you're actually loving life and things are lovely, just always, please, please, please don't do what I did. Always check for pests. So I probably went a little bit too nonchalant, and I bought a couple of really lovely expensive plants. I checked them for pests. They were quite small babies. I checked them for pests, what I thought I did, and I popped them straight into the IKEA cabinet. And then 3 weeks later, I went to check on some of my plants, and I had spider mites on all of them. So I had to take out all the plants, wash them all. Some I had to throw away. Oh, it was just a nightmare. I hate spider mite. And I didn't even see it on the plants because they're so small and so cheeky. But just isolate your plants before you get them home. Don't be eager to pop it straight into the cabinet. Make sure they're very healthy and very clean plants, because it is a closed environment, and once the pest gets in there, they're really hard to get out. They love life. Oh, I've also had a caterpillar in there once, and he ate one of my mottled monsteras, so I took him out. Lucky I killed him, because he could have munched everything, but I double checked the day after just in case. So yeah, don't do what I do. Don't put the plant straight in. I'm too impatient, seriously. I have zero patience when it comes to some things, and I just want to stick all of my plants into the IKEA cabinet so they're happy, but technically, that's not how you should do it. Don't do what I do. So double check for pests before you put them in, isolate any new plants, and make sure your greenhouse stays pest free, because it's so hard to clean afterwards. So that's it for today's video with all the things that have gone wrong for me. I hope they don't happen for you, so you plan ahead of time and you have an amazing IKEA cabinet. Good luck with your purchase. You will totally love it once it's up and running, and it's beautiful, but it might take a bit of time, so just be prepared. Of course, now that I've said about all the stuff that isn't working, I now have to go and fix it all because I want my IKEA cabinet to thrive as well. So there will be a part 2 to this video. I'll have it up in this corner somewhere when the video is ready. It may not be there. I may be pointing at something blank to begin with, but hopefully there's some video there to link through. I'll try and do it very quickly. I hope these tips were useful for you. Please do all the likes and the things. Subscribe if you want to follow for more planty tips. Happy planting, and I'll see you in the next video. See you later. Does that work? Woo! Squeaky. It's a tiny chair. It's a tiny chair. Oh. Okay, that was it. Okay, that